Deloitte in the US has told its tax employees that their attendance, either in the office or on site with clients, will count towards their performance reviews and their bonuses. And it's according to a report in the FT. In the studio to tell us what's happening with Deloitte employees here is Muhtaseb. She's the Director of People and Purpose for Deloitte Middle East, which is a great title. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the FT article was very clear that this was a US practice, but it did get us thinking, what's your policy for attendance here in the Middle East?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a topic that's, I think, driven a lot of debate, hasn't it? I think there's two things to consider really around policy, but also practice. And what the belief, I think, around some of these policies is that is to create more in-person collaboration, drive productivity, foster inclusion and innovation, creativity and so on. And there's so much to be said about being able to do that in person, including the team dynamics. But essentially what it's built on is a foundation of having the right balance between being able to work remotely and agile working and flexibility. And it's a policy that we call in the Middle East, it's hybrid works. And it's built on four main key principles, really. But that's really striving the balance between being in person together, collaborating together and having those moments that matter, which we call it, and allowing people to work according to their commitments and having kind of that flexibility as well to design their working practices to a certain extent that works for them, but also still works for the business and for their clients.
Okay, so you've got a hybrid policy here.
We do.
Do you have a number of days that your staff need to be either in your office or somebody else's office?
We haven't necessarily mandated that, and we really leave that to discretion of the teams themselves. So, there's not one way of doing this, I think. And for a lot of people, they're out on client site. But what we try to do within the teams is say, find the formula that works for this team. Find the formula that works where a couple of days a week you're in the office, and what people really need is they need that connection with their team. They need to feel like they are part of something and to really feel the company culture as well. And within that, coming to the office, there's also flexibility around that. So if you need to, beat the traffic, because that does add a lot of stress. And this is centered also on well-being and inclusion, is to have flexibility within those days that you're in the office or within those times where you are together. So it's really striving the balance, but keeping the flexibility at the core, centered really around well-being, inclusion, and just forward-thinking business practices.
Does whether or not a staff member come into the office factor in any way in their performance reviews or bonuses for you here?
At the moment in the Middle East, that's not an incentive. So we're not incentivizing coming to the office in terms of compensation, performance management and so on. The incentive is there to really build the team dynamic and really come together to foster just that in-person teamwork and collaboration and productivity. The other thing we have to consider, not everyone's in the same location. So we also don't want to create an environment where people are excluded if they're in different offices or in different locations across the Middle East.
Does that suggest that managers then have it as part of their KPIs to have people coming together?
It's not set in KPIs, and I think being able to measure that is going to be will come with its challenges. But there is certainly encouragement to find opportunities to come together rather than coming to the office but being on calls all day. Coming to the office and making sure that there's opportunity to collaborate together, opportunity to be connecting in person and drive kind of productive work.
Of course, being a consultancy, and this is one of the reasons we found the story so interesting, is that you're not just dealing with your own policies and ethos, you're also affected by the policies of your clients. How do you manage that?
Yeah, and that's the open conversations that we try to encourage with our clients. And one of those pillars that we talk about around hybrid works is being client-focused. And that's very much what we're built on is being people-centric but client-focused as well. And we have very open conversations with our clients around our business practices, our climate goals, because that's one of the other factors in our hybrid working model. And having those open conversations, it has to work for the business, it has to work for our clients. And so, we make sure that we are meeting those commitments, but having those open dialogues with the clients and making those arrangements, considering their working preferences, but also, the needs of our people.
Do clients here want to physically see consultants? to justify the consultancy bill rather than having them pop up on calls or emails?
I think they certainly value that. They do value kind of the in-person interactions. But if you look at even where the government is going, they've introduced new initiatives really focused on working parents, especially working mums, where they are encouraging working from home for like the first year of the child's life, after maternity leave. So there is a real direction, I think, even from a government perspective, to encourage more flexibility around the way we work. So there is definitely, clients do value the in-person meetings, but there is a platform there to have open conversations around the needs of the people and the working arrangements with clients.
You mentioned your climate goals impacting your hybrid working policy. How so?
Yeah, so I mean, people travelling to the office back and forth, and also travelling to clients, considering we're a regional team, we do have some climate goals that are considered around our hybrid working, and being very mindful of our carbon footprint with people commuting and so on is definitely one of the factors and one of the key pillars in our hybrid working policy.
What do your employees want? How does it work in with motivation and morale?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because we do an employee survey every quarter, and we've been doing that for the last couple of years, and that's really around some of the key pillars of our employee experience and our business practices, and there is a question there, and it's not just about them coming to work and the culture. There's a lot around that, but we do ask about, do you feel that your working preferences, your flexibility is respected? And we've got really favourable scores on that front. So we know that that's really important to our people, to have that flexibility to be able to balance things. We've got a lot of working parents. We have a lot of people, for example, in the UAE who don't have a lot of family around that support structure. So it's definitely something that they value a lot. But we also have a lot of research on it. So we've done the Women at Work report. We've got a Gen Z Millennial report. So we do look into those findings to understand what's important to our people, and that's certainly not stagnant. So we have to keep an eye on that.
1 minute left with you. How do you protect your employees from again, the client's take on that? Those I know in the consultancy business, the messages come in late at night and on weekends. If the client's had a thought and wants to share it, they're paying for your time. Do you have to have tricky conversations with clients about that?
I think it's important for us to create a very open and honest relationship with our clients and really build that rapport to be able to have conversations if something isn't quite working. And so, yeah, absolutely. If we do, and that's not just, I think, with clients, that's internally as well, just being able to have those. It's driven really by inclusion, and we want to make sure that our practices are inclusive. And if we need to have conversations, then I hope we feel like we are able to do that with our people and with our clients.
Lamise Muhtaseb is the Director of People and Purpose at Deloitte Middle East, talking to us this morning about how they handle work in and work out of the office on the back of an FT report of the US tax practice tying attendance to bonuses.
Yeah, thanks for your messages on this and for taking our Instagram poll. We're asking you on Instagram, how many days a week in the office is best in 2025? 1 day, 3 days or 5 days? At the moment, 3 days is winning. 67% of people say 3 days is optimum. But of course, it's early days. That will change during the conversation.